It was a bustling afternoon in downtown Toronto. The lunchtime crowd filled every corner of the city like a wave crashing into a bay. In the middle of it all was Maple Leaf Café, a charming, modest little place known for its friendly service and world-famous buttermilk pancakes. The cafe buzzed with the clinks of cutlery, chatter, and the comforting hiss of the espresso machine. Among the regulars sat a young boy named Ethan, age 12. With bright eyes and the kind of curiosity that could only be matched by his frequent questions. He was seated with his grandmother, Mrs. Ruby Walters, a retired schoolteacher known around town for her wisdom and patient heart. "Grandma, why do people yell at servers, like that man just now?" Ethan's voice was low, but the hurt was clear in his tone. Mrs. Walters turned her head gently toward the table 2 rows down, where a sharply dressed man was berating a young waitress over the temperature of his coffee. "Because, my dear," she said calmly, "some people forget that kindness doesn't cost anything. They think raising their voice gives them power. But respect is what truly makes someone strong." Ethan nodded, though he didn't fully understand. Just then, the door jingled again. In walked Harvey, a 16-year-old high schooler wearing headphones, his hoodie up, and his backpack slung carelessly across one shoulder. He headed straight for the counter, not bothering to make eye contact or remove his headphones. "I'll take a caramel latte, oat milk," he said, not even glancing up from his phone. The barista, a cheerful woman named Alicia, replied with a smile, "Sure, a caramel latte with oat milk, coming right up." Harvey didn't say thanks. He walked to the nearest table and plopped down, headphones still in dot. Mrs. Walters watched all of this quietly, her fingers tapping gently on the ceramic mug. She motioned toward Harvey and whispered to Ethan that, "My boy, is the sound of silence where manners used to be." Ethan giggled. "That sounds poetic." Mrs. Walters smiled. "It's more important than it sounds." The lesson of listening. Later that day, Ethan and his grandmother were walking home. The sky had softened into hues of lavender and pink as the sun began its slow descent behind the skyline. "Grandma, can people learn manners, or is it just something you're born with?" Mrs. Walters paused and thought for a moment. "Manners are like seeds. You plant them early, and with enough care, they grow into something beautiful. But even if they weren't planted early, it's never too late to start." They turned a corner and passed a street musician playing the violin. Ethan dropped a loonie into the man's case. "See," Mrs. Walters said, "that's kindness. That's respect." "But he didn't even say thank you," Ethan said, half joking. "Respect isn't always about what you get. It's about what you give, and sometimes the world pays you back in unexpected ways." Across town, a storm brewing meanwhile, in a different part of the city, 16-year-old Harvey was having the worst day of his life. His phone buzzed with texts from school friends, laughing about a video of him tripping during basketball tryouts. His mom had grounded him for skipping homework. And to make things worse, his part-time job at the gas station had just cut his hours. He walked home with his hoodie pulled tighter, his frustration building like a pressure cooker. "I don't owe anyone anything," he muttered. At dinner, his mother asked, "Did you say thank you to the cafe worker today?" Harvey rolled his eyes. "Why should I? She's just doing her job." His mom looked at him quietly for a moment. "One day, you'll understand that how you treat others has a funny way of coming back around," he scoffed. "Yeah, right." The school assignment that changed everything. The next week at school, Harvey's English teacher announced a new project. "You'll each be assigned a senior in our community to interview. Someone who's lived through decades, seen the world change, and has something to teach you." Harvey groaned. "We have to talk to old people." "Harvey," the teacher said firmly, "it's called listening. It's what you need more practice in." The next morning, Harvey was assigned to visit Mrs. Ruby Walters, the same elderly woman who'd been watching him in the cafe. He sighed deeply. Great. An unexpected meeting. Harvey showed up late, hoodie still up, phone still in hand. Mrs. Walters opened the door with a smile. "Ah, the one who speaks through thumbs," she teased gently, pointing to his texting fingers. He stared at her, unsure how to respond. "I made cookies," she said. "Come on in." Reluctantly he entered and slumped onto the couch. The room smelled like cinnamon and old books. It was oddly comforting. "So," Mrs. Walters began, "what would you like to know?" He didn't look up. "I don't know. You're the one with the life experience." She smiled. "That I am. And do you know what the first lesson of a long life is?" He shrugged. "Be respectful and listen." Harvey didn't reply. She continued. When I was a young girl in 1947, my mother taught me something very simple. She said, Ruby, you don't have to be rich to be kind. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You just have to care enough to look someone in the eyes and truly listen. Harvey shuffled in his seat. Mrs. Walters offered him a cookie. You remind me of my son when he was your age. Angry at the world. Felt unseen. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't speak louder, it's speak softer. Seeds of change. Harvey didn't say much that day, but something inside him stirred. The next day, back at the cafe, he walked in again. Alicia was behind the counter, as always. Caramel latte, oat milk, please, he said. But this time, he looked her in the eye. And then, quietly, he added, thank you. Alicia blinked, surprised, then smiled. You're welcome. He walked away and didn't even use his headphones. Back to Ethan at the same cafe. Ethan sat with his grandmother again. He watched as Harvey passed their table and gave a small nod to Mrs. Walters. She nodded back with a gentle smile. Did you see that? Ethan whispered. I did, Mrs. Walters replied. That, my dear, was a sprouting seed. 2 weeks had passed since Harvey's quiet visit to Mrs. Walters. Something about her calm voice, the warm cookies, and her unexpected patience had stayed with him longer than he expected. He hadn't changed overnight, but a seed had been planted. One Friday afternoon, as the clouds rolled dark and heavy over Toronto's skyline, Harvey found himself sitting on a bench near Maple Leaf Cafe. His phone buzzed again and again. Friends, arguments, missed assignments. His world was still messy, but then he remembered Mrs. Walters' words. You don't have to be loud to be heard. He slipped his phone into his pocket and looked around. He needed to think, to breathe. A boy in trouble across the street. Ethan was leaving the bookstore, arms full of books for a school project. The light changed to green, and he stepped onto the road. But just then a delivery van turned the corner to fast. Ethan tripped. Books scattered across the crosswalk. The van screeched to a halt. People gasped. The driver jumped out, yelling. But nobody moved. Nobody except Harvey. Without thinking, he ran forward, helped Ethan up, and quickly gathered the books. You okay, kid? Harvey asked, panting slightly. Ethan looked up, stunned. I think so. You sure? Ethan nodded slowly. You're the guy from the cafe, the rude one. Harvey chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, guess I was, but I'm trying not to be. Meeting again, under new circumstances that evening. Mrs. Walters opened her door once more to find Harvey and Ethan standing side by side. He saved me, Ethan said. He just ran in, like superhero style. Mrs. Walters stepped aside, smiling. Then I guess it's time you stayed for dinner. They sat around the small round table in her cozy apartment, eating simple homemade stew and fresh baked bread. Why did you help him? Mrs. Walters asked gently. Harvey looked at his spoon, then up at her. Because I saw him, like really saw him, and no one else was doing anything. She nodded. That's what respect looks like. You don't need to know someone to care. Ethan, always curious, leaned forward. Were you always respectful? Harvey shook his head. Not even close. I thought being rude made me cool, or strong, but actually, it just made me lonely. Mrs. Walters added, kindness doesn't make you weak. It makes you courageous. Because in a world that's always in a hurry, stopping to care is an act of bravery. An unexpected test. A few days later, Harvey's teacher asked him to present his senior interview. He stood in front of the class, looking out at the usual group friends, strangers, and the occasional heckler. He cleared his throat. I interviewed Mrs. Ruby Walters. She's 82. She was a teacher for over 40 years and believes the world would be a better place if people just learned to listen. A few students yawned. Harvey smirked, then added, I used to think respect was earned by being louder, tougher, or cooler. But now I know, it's earned by how you treat people, not how you look, or what you own. I learned that from her, and from a kid I helped in the street. There was silence. Not mocking silence, but curious silence. And for the first time, Harvey felt proud. Ethan's school project. A few weeks later, Ethan's class was assigned a kindness campaign project. He created a short video titled The Day Manners Saved Me. It showed footage of him talking about the street incident, about Harvey, and included clips from the cafe school, and even an interview with Mrs. Walters. The video ended with the message, it doesn't take a cape to be a hero. Sometimes all at tea to be continued. In part 2, Harvey finds himself in a moment where he becomes the one needing help, and it's Ethan and Mrs. Walters who must decide how to respond. Will Harvey's small gesture of change be enough? Or will life throw him a harder lesson in respect?